special council meeting. If you would, at this time, please silence any electronic devices you may have. And if you want to speak to the council tonight, it's going to be a special thing. There'll be no reason to sign up. We're going to give you an opportunity after the interviews are done. If you want to make an input to the city council, we'll just let you come up and speak to us without having to sign up or whatever. And we'll let you do that before we vote. So you don't need to sign up. If you would, I'd like you to join Councilman Joe Blocker as he leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. This time, everybody, please sign in. And let me know that all 5 councilmen are present. And at this time, I'm going to go to the agenda. And I think the only change in what I noted is that we still have comments from the audience, but we'll allow the audience to speak after we have the interviews if they want to give us any kind of input. Anybody else? Anybody have any problem with the agenda? Okay, then I see it's approved by unanimous consent. And I would like remarks by the, I'm sorry, Mr. Cox, did you have something?
Just one request, since we're down to 4 finalists, and we got a full council dice, that each council member be allowed up to 4 questions. We had agreed before on 3.
Okay, that's a suggestion. I will tell you, I think at 3 questions, we're gonna have trouble getting through that time constraints as it is, but it's up to y'all if you wanna extend the time. But we do have certain times blocked out for all these people lined up to come on Skype with us. And another question, I would think, would extend the time enough that it would put us behind the eight ball. But go ahead, Mr. Fairclough.
if each councilman gets another question, and the candidate has 3 minutes to address it, that's 15 minutes more that we're gonna add to him before we get to the next one, and we got a time schedule to keep.
So what I hear is you're probably opposed to that?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Hayes, you got any input on that?
Yeah, we had established the priority route, what we're gonna do last meeting. I can't really see us changing at the last moment, so.
All right, Mr. Blocker, any thoughts on it?
Well, in essence, we're not gonna have time, but let's condense it and do what we can.
Okay.
Yes, and I withdraw my
Okay.
request.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, would you kind of describe the procedures we're going to do to kind of remind us what we decided to do?
Okay, first of all, the question came to me is who's gonna go first, who's gonna go second, who's gonna go third? The procedure tonight is each council member gets 1 question, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we start back over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As I discussed at the last meeting, your first question needs to be your priority question. Your second question needs to be your second priority question, because you may not get to a third. If somebody runs over, we may not get to a third question. There's a little yellow piece of paper behind your name tag up there that I had absolutely nothing to do with. I wrote everybody's name on a piece of paper, and somebody else pulled them out and numbered them. So whatever number's on that piece of paper that has your name on it, that's the number you are going in order of. And I have no idea what it is, so y'all are gonna have to tell me.
I have numero uno,
Okay,
Where's
number
it at?
1.
Oh, up here.
yeah.
One other,
I'm a J.
You're a J.
Who's 2?
Who's 2?
Oh.
Cox is 2.
Councilman Cox.
Next.
Hayes, you were number 3. And Mr. Blocker, that leaves you for number 5, by process of elimination.
I have another
If
request.
you say so.
Like I said, I just put the names on there. They brought them, put them in here, so I didn't know until y'all just told me what their names were.
Councilman
I
Cox.
have another request. If, on each individual council member's questions, if those came from from the ICMA suggested questions, could you refer to the number, the itemized number of that question?
In case that's one you've already chosen, is that?
Yes,
Yeah.
makes it easier.
I have no idea what the questions are.
Okay,
Nobody
you
referred
what
to
he's
them.
saying, if you use the question submitted to us for suggestion, just identify the number, so you can look real quickly and see if he has to replace his.
Okay.
makes
The other statement that if, right now, you're gonna have 2 minutes per question. That means your question, their answer, 2 minutes to get through 3 questions apiece. You have an option at this point to have 2 questions for 3 minutes. Do you think you can get through your question and their answer in 2 minutes? If you can't, then we need to change it to 2 questions for 3 minutes each.
Your thoughts, gentlemen? We want to start in about 3 minutes, so your thoughts on that?
Mine's 2 questions, 3 minutes. That's
Councilman Faircloth, your thoughts?
So we're going to 2 questions?
No,
That's
that-
your choice.
We're taking your opinion.
Taking a poll.
Oh,
Two questions at 3 minutes, or 3 questions at 2 minutes?
well, we need to find out as much as we can when that 3 minutes, or 2 minutes, so I'm saying 3 questions.
Okay, so you're at 3 questions. Councilman Blocker?
I want them to have ample time to give us the information that we need to hear. So the maximum we can give them, that's what I want,
Maximum time or maximum questions?
both, 3.
3.
The choice is
So you want
2
3
questions,
questions
3 minutes, or 3 questions, 2 minutes. Those are your choices.
You know,
Councilman
3.
Cox? Hang on just a minute.
3.
3 questions, 3 questions.
there is something to say for Mr. Blocker's suggestion about giving them ample time. I'll stay with 3 questions.
Okay.
Okay, just,
Let's
there
stay with
will,
3 questions?
yeah, there'll be a timer on the screen when the 2 minutes goes up. That said, that is your question, so you need to be short and concise on your questions. They need to be short and concise on their answers. They do know that there is a time limit on this presentation.
Are they gonna get an audible warning that they're about to exceed their 2 minutes? Is that possible? Because they're not gonna see our clock, are they?
No, but you can, they'll be able to hear you if you give a 30-second warning. We can do that.
Who's gonna give the 30-second warning?
You are.
Caesar is.
Okay.
Okay, have you got a microphone, or do you need me to?
It'll pick it up off your mic.
Okay, he'll pick it up. So he's doing the timer, so he'll do a 30-second warning.
All right, any other issue before we begin the process? Just keep in mind, we were all supposed to bring some backup questions, so if you get surprised, somebody took a question you had, you're gonna have to go to the bank that you brought and come up with something else.
Just one more thing before we call the first candidate. He's scheduled for 5:10. I have let them know that they may be a couple of minutes late being called, that we won't call them early, but may call them later. Since the 7 o'clock person, Mr. Irby, has withdrawn his application, I did get in touch with Mr. Akimi, who is a 7:35 candidate, and he is available anytime after 7:15. So if we get done, and we want, instead of having to wait 35 minutes or 40 minutes for the next gentleman, we can call Mr. Akimi at as early as 7:15, which pushes it up 20 minutes. Okay? Any other questions before we?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to give out my numbers in case somebody's got them, I can change. I have number 18, 13, and 22.
What'd you say?
Um,
18, 13, 22.
But which page? We got 2 sets.
Oh, 8 is on the, okay, 8 is on the first page, 13 and 22 are on the second set.
Okay. All right, I don't have any of those. Are we ready?
Are we ready? All right.
Rock?
Call Mr. Newhouse. Our first candidate is Mr. Ben Newhouse.
Which camera?
He'll be on the TV
No, I mean,
and in front of you.
Where we
Turn
look.
your TV on.
Mr. Newhouse, are you with us? Uh-oh. check on the audio, right?
Minute window between the cameras. Can you hear us now? We can't hear him, that's the problem.
Who was this?
Hang on with us, just,
Mr. Newhouse.
we got him now?
Mr. Newhouse, can you check your computer speaker, your computer microphone? Okay. We do.
All right, we see you, we still can't hear you. Can you hear us?
You can hear us?
Yeah, he can hear us.
Yeah, I asked him to check that. So.
Hang with us, Mr. Newhouse, we don't use sign language here, so we're gonna have to get the audio in.
You go with a whiteboard and write your answers down. Yes, that's it. Everybody, please ask yes or no questions.
Technology. Working on the test.
Okay, it worked 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, we get our sound all right.
It's on his side.
Yeah.
Mr. Newhouse, will you say something again, except bye? Don't say goodbye.
Yeah, because we're getting full audio on our side, so.
Whoa. Nothing wrong with the speakers on our end.
Yep.
Remember, we brought this up as eventuality that it could happen, we could lose something during a... Your time's up, Mr. Newhouse.
Well, we can call it, we can put the radio phone up here and call him on the phone and he can just watch
Yeah,
it
we'll
as he gives
have
the
to-
answers. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna call you on the phone. Apparently, there's a disconnect somewhere, we don't know where it is.
We have to check his audio settings.
Maybe his lines
Got
are
him on
frozen
phone.
up there.
Oh, where's our radio?
Yes, you want some notes?
I got the speakerphone. All right. What's his number, somebody? What's his number, Caesar?
I have it as 304-471-4870.
The number you have reached, 304-471-4878, is not in service.
Uh-oh.
Did you dial a one? in front of
Ask
it.
him to write it down.
Okay, that's his number. Okay, I can't see. That's his number on your
4878.
one.
Back it off a little bit.
Smoke signals.
741.
The number you have dialed.
Oh, shut up.
He's gonna write stuff down, he's
One,
gonna need a
what?
Sharpie.
Hold your piece of paper back up, please, sir. One,
711.
304. 741. What's the last four? I can't see.
4878.
He said, that's good.
You ask him to speak now?
Ring you
Hands up.
Tell me your phone is ringing, please. No, he's gone.
Maybe he's getting. Hello? Hello? We got your name, but we don't have your picture anymore.
Yeah, that line took over his. Well, anyway, that's a train going by. Anyway, welcome, Mr. Newhouse. It just took a little while to get you here. We thought the lines were frozen there, but we need to jump right in here. I'm the president of the council, J.B. Witten, and I'm going to kick things off by asking you the first question. You ready? All right. What experience do you have with respect to personnel, labor relations, and collective bargaining? You've got 2 minutes. Can you hang on just a minute? We need to turn the volume up a little bit here. Go ahead.
I currently supervise more than 80 employees. Water, sewer, police, stormwater, code enforcement, building inspection. I also have a lot of relations with companies with regards to contracts, as well as labor relations. Now, my current position is not
That's no good.
No, it's not working. It's too messed up. We can't really hear what you're saying.
Let me try to call on his cell phone, see what happens. Hang up, let me call. Now we have him back in person.
The good news is we got the video back.
Yeah,
But
it's
as
probably
soon
the
as you
same,
get on that line, you
probably
take
the
the
same
video
phone
off.
line. No.
Why don't you tell him we're gonna phone his cell phone. Phone by cell.
I'm thinking when we call in, it's cutting him off. Yep. We're here. Let me see if the cell phone will work any better through the microphone than the,
I think we're gonna have to, we'll try one last shot here.
all right, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's see if that'll work. All right. Let's try this again.
You want me to go ahead and repeat, or go through my answers on the first question?
Yeah, I'm afraid you're gonna have to. There was a lot of interference on the last one. So if you would, please, you need me to restate the question?
No, sir, I completely understand. My current position, city manager, I've been here 13 years in the city of Hurricane, West Virginia. I oversee 80 employees, mostly police officers and utility workers, also code enforcement, building inspection. And so I've had a lot of experience in that regard. Worked for, as you've probably seen from my resume, several state and federal agencies. And I started out straight from college. I was really kind of blessed in community and economic development, but I also do a lot of relations and contracts and in relation to, vendors that work with us at the city every day. I've got more than 100 contracts that I deal with, anywhere from CSX Railroad to cell phones to copiers or whatever. So that's kind of my history. I do a lot of supervisory roles every day, and I'm in different pools every day. Some days I'm the accountant, some days I'm the lawyer, some days I'm the engineer, the planner. But that's kind of the role as a city manager is what I do here in West Virginia.
All right, thank you so much. I'm gonna turn you over to Councilman Cox is gonna ask the next question. You need to have that moved over there, though. We need to move this whole thing right here.
Okay, Ben, how will you go about assessing the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and identifying opportunities to improve?
Generally, when I came into my position, in other positions I've had, I work within the people within the organization to hear, all the stories and the assessments that they have about the organization. And then I also, of course, I lean on the council and the mayor and also the external agencies and assessing, all the functions and all the strengths and weaknesses that the city has. So when I came into the city of Hurricane, I quickly assessed we had financial problems. We had too many loans, too high rates. We had a pretty high rate of turnover for employees, and our healthcare wasn't very good. So I do a lot of assessment checks, but I don't do it just internally. I check with things externally and talk to other parties involved with the city, with my current city, as well as I would do for that city as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next question.
No, we're going down the road and then come back. Who's number 3?
Yes.
I can come over there.
I'm not sure that, pull your mic down, Mr. Hayes, I'm not sure that wireless is working.
Okay, Mr. Newhouse, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Shannon Hayes, City Councilman here. And my question is, what will your first steps be upon assuming responsibility for this position if we hire you? And what do you hope to accomplish in your first year?
Again, pretty similar to what I had at City Hurricane. When I came in, I try not to get too overly active in certain things. My first year usually is about assessment. It's understanding about, again, strengths and weaknesses, what the position of the community is. They're looking at smart growth and what kind of growth and how they go about their day-to-day business. That's my role, is to get in and get knee deep in finding out how we're doing financially and how we're doing with morale with the people that work there. I want people who work there to appreciate where they work and we reward them accordingly. My first jobs are start looking at grants and programs and things that we need to build upon what the council directs me to do. My role is to come in and facilitate change as necessary by the community as well as the city council and the mayor.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, Mr. Newhouse, I'm Doug Fairclough, Councilman.
Yes, sir.
I guess my question is similar to Mr. Hayes. Assuming you would be selected, what are your goals for your first year?
My goals again are I like to see what the community is all about, to see how the city plays a role in the community and how we integrate with other organizations and individuals and try to make things better. I mean, my goal is to evaluate and assess and then start thinking again programmatically about how to make changes for the better in the community. And they can be arranged from everything from medium to large things to a combination of a lot of small things that just matter to things like Main Street or the parks or hiking trails or sidewalks, business incubators. These are all things that I've done in the past. So my job is just to work with the community and try to make strides to make it even better, make it a good place to a great place for people to live.
Mr. Newhouse, my name is Joe Blocker, Councilman,
Yes, sir.
and thank you for showing interest in our city.
Thanks for showing interest in me, Councilman.
All right, listen to me clearly now.
Yes, sir.
Briefly, share with this body of elected officials here about your personal background, career goals, and achievements in managing municipal government operations that you were successful in.
The areas that I was successful in my management experience.
That is correct,
sure.
yes.
Mostly, I stride on making sure that my team, my people within my organization grow. That they look at opportunities not only for themselves but for the city. But I also look to increase the capacity in our community as far as intellectual growth and infrastructure growth and things of that nature. When I get involved in I look at things to, harbor the best out of people as well as the community and enhance what we have. And I work closely hand in hand with this good policy I have I have a great city council now, is that we just communicate, discuss about our long-term as well as our short-term goals and how we can achieve those. So I strive my success on, the people around me. If they're happy and things are going great and they want to work there, I'm more in the community is thriving and we have a good growth rate and things are happening, fairs and festivals and different events and modifying buildings. That's the kind of things I show my success on, is that we make small enhancements just to make things better.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, Mr. Newhouse, you're back to me for round two. And my second question is, in your experience, what is the key to developing a good team?
I would say collaboration. I guess we could say the word collusion. It doesn't sound very good, but when people get together and they share ideas and we have good goals and we get people involved, that's what it's about. It's not I don't operate my current city manager role as an autocratic kind of dictatorship. I like people to be democratic. I like for them to come and tell me, this is what we think we should work on. This is what direction we can go. Because I'm just one person. There's a lot of smart people work within these organizations, and they have pretty good ideas about how to move forward.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to hand you off to Councilman Cox again.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Newhouse, this is Councilman Cox.
Yes.
You're in the hurricane that's Greater Charleston and Kanawha River, correct?
Correct. You pronounced it correctly. Most people call it Kanawha.
Okay, thank you. My question for you this time is number 15 for reference. What techniques have you found to be the most successful in assisting local government officials establish and implement long and short-range goals for the community?
We identify, benchmarks or identify goals that, and we can modify those at any time. But when I worked for the Appalachian Regional Commission, I was the federal representative for all of West Virginia. But one of the things I really liked was working with local officials in that role was we identified, the problem areas and we identified the resources. And so it was good to have a communication there between to meet those areas of need. And it wasn't just a certain individual going in and strong arming and whatever. It was a collaborative effort again between the different communities and telling them, hey, this is the problems you have. You have a wastewater plant that's discharging excess amount of BOD or TSS or the total nitrogen or solids or mercury, whatever. And there's ways to fix things. Stormwater is the same way. Community development's the same way. Not one person can do it. So we highlight on areas of goals and benchmarks to say, here's where we're at now, and this is how we have to identify resources, not only within our community, but there's also a ton of resources outside of the community that can come in and implement either nonprofits or grant funding or other resources. That's the biggest thing that I would stress when working with local officials.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Newhouse.
Thank you.
Mr. Newhouse, this is Shannon Hayes once again.
Yes.
And my second question to you would be, what do you do if you seriously disagree with the decision of the governing body?
Well, I've been down that road a lot too, and it depends on the goals and objectives. Again, it depends on a project. Certainly, I'm a community development person, so I hold a lot of community development things near to my heart. I like hiking trails and sidewalks and senior centers and community centers and meal programs, and so when things don't work out that way, generally I try to have that lobbying effect first to say, I think we need to reevaluate this and say, this is the things that we need to look at for our long-term goals or even short-term or medium goals. But I don't get frustrated. I'll take it back. Everybody gets frustrated. I try to come back to council members and we have further discussion or other members of the staff and say, this is how we can make things better, and this is how we need to look at this from different angles, because usually not every angle is the right angle. So I try to get things in perspective and say, and the first thing I do is come back and say, let's let's reevaluate. Sit down again. Let's talk to the members at the senior center or the other facilities or whatever program it's affecting. And let's sit down and talk about these things so we can figure out where we want to go with this program or this facility in the short or long term.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Newhouse, it's Doug Faircloth again.
Yes, sir.
What particular experience do you have with respect to budget preparation and finance? And give us specific examples of how you address cost reduction in your most recent position.
That's a good question. It takes a little while to kind of get in that perspective, but my background is accounting, so most accountants are minimalistic. They look at trying to minimize costs, wherever they go. But I've prepared budgets and reviewed financials with my current finance manager pretty much daily. It's not as large as Crestview. Our budget's about $12 million. Most of it's in our general fund. We also have water, wastewater, and we're an MS4, a stormwater community. So, but we assess and look at different things. One, we look at how capital costs may affect us. Sometimes I go after grant resources with the state or the federal or nonprofits or even foundations or even private citizens sometimes make donations so we can offset some of our costs in a city. The other things is I negotiate. Like I mentioned earlier, I've got currently over 100 contracts. And this small example, let's say my cell phone a couple years ago I switched. I look at all the costs. I look at what my people are doing or when they're calling at night or whatever. But I always try to find the biggest bang for our buck, the best deal for the city and how it plays on us with our budget and our goals. So there's a couple of things, like I mentioned, I look at grant resources or other resources, things that could impact our budget every day. I look at those external factors, and I look at internal as well. But when I buy a vehicle, I sometimes don't go with the same bank. If I have to refinance our existing facilities and equipment, I'll do it in a heartbeat. So in the midst of being there 13 years, I've saved or been granted over $7 million by myself at the city by either looking at other resources, and especially writing a lot of grants. That's what I do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Newhouse, Joe Blocker again. Question number 2.
Yes, sir. Okay.
On a scale 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself in qualifications in management of all levels of Crestview's local self-government system? And at the present, maybe possible, you may have some strong points or weak points. Would you care to elaborate and explain, please?
Yes, sir. Kind of hard doing self-assessment. Again, most of my employees here, my existing city of Hurricane would tell you that my management skills are pretty much dead on. I would say I have to rate myself somewhere between an 8 and a 9. I'm not perfect. There's still, in the 26 years I've done this since college, you learn a lot of different things, and you learn a lot about people. And from pretty much here on in, I'm not shocked to see almost anything at this point in time, and even handling situations. What I do in my management perspective is I look at other managers and others. I'm 48 years old, but I look at other people and I say, that's the kind of trait, that's the kind of way I want to handle people. That's the kind of person I want to be. I don't like terminating people. I don't like disciplining them. I try to give them every opportunity to kind of move forward and go forward. So, but I rely on my managers now in my office, and they report to me daily, and we talk about projects, and we have really good relationships. There's, the not times I don't try to ostracize my people or put them out in the dark. I tell them everything that they need to know as much as I humanly possibly can every day. I am the communication beacon pretty much every day. So that's how I try to build good relationships within the organization.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we're back to the beginning of round 3. And this is J.B. Witten again. And my final question for you is, how do you keep, or how have you kept, the elected officials informed?
Well, anytime that we have, of course, city council, I disclose 100% of the information unless it's, something we have to go behind closed doors, either litigation or personnel. But when if they happen to call me or email me and just want to talk about a project or hear something that's going on in the community, we have discussion. Usually they pop in my office. Most of them do about every day or every other day. So I don't like issuing memos or email listservs or whatever, but we have conversations and we talk about where we're going and what's going on. So I don't like to keep them in the dark. I like to tell them, hey, this is what's coming up. This is what's going on. Here's a piece of equipment that's getting ready to break down, or we got to look at different insurance or something else. So we have a conversation pretty regularly in the office.
Okay, thank you so much, and now you're gonna have Councilman Cox again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Newhouse, this is Councilman Cox.
Yes, sir.
For reference, this is 20A number. Question, do you have an overall philosophy or strategy regarding economic development?
It's different for small business as well. Sometimes it is for larger business. There's still, what I try to work a lot with in West Virginia. Again, it's probably the same in a lot of areas and communities and throughout the United States. Majority of businesses, 96-97% made up of small business. So I try to garner some things for the small business that it's easier to work with small businesses for large corporations. Usually I work at the State Development Office, and they're our agents, and I was part of that as well, is working with people like NGK or Toyota or Nippon or Warehouse or other big corporations, and they're usually looking at manufacturing credits or workforce development credits or training dollars or things of that nature. Small business is a little different. I like working small business because it's self-rewarding almost in itself. The first day you talk to people in small business is they're looking for small things, to help, infrastructure improvements, sidewalks, lighting, better Wi-Fi, things of that nature. And we have a Main Street here in Hurricane, and I get excited about helping. We own 6 buildings now. I got 12 storefronts and 7 apartments that I manage pretty much by myself every day. So it's a little bit different scales when you talk about big business to small business, but I have a pretty good knowledge and background dealing with, again, workforce dollars, tax credits, SBA loans, things of that nature, micro loans. So that's a lot of background I had at the state and the federal level. Hope that answered your question.
Yes, and thank you, Mr. Newhouse.
Thank you.
Mr. Newhouse, this is Shannon Hayes again for my final question of the day, and I appreciate your answers that I've heard so far. How do you relate to citizens and citizens groups?
I try to be very direct. Again, they're just hopefully a lot like me, and they just want to have answers. Most people that have issues, their day-to-day issues or whatever. In my current role, I hear a lot about utilities and stormwater runoff. Got a great knowledge since I've taken over this job 13 years ago. That was my goal when I came into this role, was to learn more about water, sewer, and stormwater, and other programs too, like ICC building code and building inspections, police departments. But I don't try to be adverse. I treat people, if they treat me with respect and kindness, that's the way I want to treat them. And I'll go ask the people here in my current situation. I've had relationships, some great ones with the citizens here for the same 13 years, that when they say something, I listen, and I take it to heart, because it could be me in that role at some point in time as well. They could have a neighbor problem or a junk cart problem or a dog problem or whatever, and I work with my managers, and we resolve it as quickly as we humanly possibly can. So, but I'm not adverse in any way about working with groups, nonprofit, citizen groups, or even residents directly. I encourage them to come in and talk to me and say what's on their mind, and as long as they don't punch me. That's that's the good thing about working with citizens. But 98% of them are terrific, and there's always that, sometimes that, I hate to say this, that 2% that just, I don't know, I know there's issues and you try to resolve it, but those can be resolved too. I've had 100% faith, 100% of the people can be helped in some measure to the fullest extent. That's the role of the city manager as well.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Newhouse, it's Doug Fairclough for my last question.
Okay.
What experience have you had in dealing with controversies or problems with our first responder type agencies, police, firefighters, so on and so forth?
Well, we've had several lawsuits, and I should say several. I've probably had half a dozen in 13 years related to the police department. And again, they kind of consider me first general counsel, procuring an attorney, getting evidence and information, working hand in hand with the groups. We have a volunteer group. Most of our groups are volunteer firemen here in West Virginia, but we have couple paid firemen in our crew. But the police department, generally they have some issues from time and again, and we work hand in hand with those guys. We don't try to be adversarial with them, and we try to assist them in any way they can so we can resolve whatever. And those arise from any kind of. We've had several issues where people are shoplifting at our local Walmart, or dealing drugs, or it was an assault issue on our officer. We recently had one of our officers shot through the leg for a gentleman that came in through from Pennsylvania and Chicago, and we looked to resolve, get his health care, his workers' comp, and anything we can help resolve that issue to get him whole again. So, but we do have conflict, and we look at it the fact that we can make difference, and trying to find out the facts and help these guys, because they're helping us, watching us every day, and protecting us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Newhouse, Joe Blocker again.
Yes, sir.
Listen closely. What is the most important to you if you are the selected candidate in establishing an effective working relationship of employees under your supervision, and your thoughts on how you would accomplish this delicate task?
Well, working with staff is, again, there's usually a couple factors why people work in an organization, and my way is to understand what their perception is and hopefully make them a good working tool to get their inclusion. That's the first thing you have to do, is you have to get people to buy in. You have to get them to buy in and make sure that this is your community too. This is why you work here, and this is why you live here. This is why we're going to get you involved, and I'm going to ask your opinion. And that only brings out, I think, positive tools. What I've always seen in my experience, to see people getting involved that want to make a difference. It makes a difference to them as well, again, because they want to see, I think, the community look better and feel better and work better, because they've got family live here and they've got kids that are here. So having good relationships with people in the office is what I strive for. Is it going to happen all the time? Absolutely not. It's just a fact of life that you're going to have some issues and situations that cannot be resolved, and I take it to the fullest degree. I think anybody will tell you in my current position, I don't like terminating, I don't like disciplining, but it's necessary, and I've done it. And I've done it to the fact that in 13 years I've terminated 45 people, and it's because of just dumb things. Trying to do drug deals or drug use or skipping work or not showing up or incompetent work or whatever. So I'm not afraid of that situation either, but I harbor a good relationship with my people, because every day they're going to look at me and I go look at them, and they want to be there, and I want to make sure they're there and they're happy. And that's my goals for them, is to be happy in that situation.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Newhouse, Mr. Whitten here again. I just want to thank you. Apologize for the technicality, the technical upturn that we had, but I appreciate it, and we'll be in touch with you, and good luck.
Thank you. I want to thank all the council for appreciate interviewing me this evening. I'm sorry we had some issues. We had it worked out. Caesar and I did the other day, but we got a little snow here, so I'll blame it on that right now. And
It sounds good.
Probably not that anyway.
All right.
Yeah, but I appreciate your all's time in the interview.
All right. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
All right.
Very well in your 30 minutes. Oh, my
Yes. We did well once we got the connection.
But
Blame it
we're
on
still
the
staying with
snow.
the 30-minute time limit, so.
Blame it on the snow.
Yeah.
We're going to, just a couple of minutes, hopefully Mr. Tim Baldock is the next one. Hopefully he will come through loud and clear and we won't have any issues. If he doesn't and we have another issue, then I'm gonna present another, proposal to the thing, but let's see if we can get Mr. Baldock on the phone.
Good. I'll find a few minutes to figure out what was my second question. Bill surprised me.
You wanna mark that?
God.
Can't hear you. He said he just tested his with his daughter, so we know it's working on his end. I'm not sure what's up.
So you believe your mic is working though, right, Jim?
Hang on.
Because we see your lips moving, but we don't hear anything.
Just one moment, please.
We're working on some.
All right, we're gonna have to go to an alternative plan, it looks
hang on
like.
Just a second.
Is that bold?
Tim's, Caesar's working on something. Just 1 minute. Go ahead and speak.
Hang in there,
Say
we're
something else, Tim.
working on an alternative plan.
Say something, don't nod. I can't hear your head rattle.
Yes, no.
Oh,
Right.
Is that Mr. Bolduc?
yes.
Yep,
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yay.
Good, because we never did get the audio on the first one. Well, welcome, let me, I'm the president of the council, J.B. Witten, and let me just tell you, because we have 5 of us here, we're all gonna ask 3 questions apiece, you have 30 minutes, so you're gonna have approximately 2 minutes each question, if you can kinda gauge it that way. Okay, I'm gonna start things off, question number 1. What experience do you have with respect to personnel, labor relations, and collective bargaining?
Okay, that's a great question. I have extensive experience in dealing with personnel over the years, from owning my own business through serving as a building official and then eventually the public works director and the city manager in a small community. I have extensive experience in that area. As far as labor negotiations, like with unions, my experience there would be limited. I have some, I've sat in on some of the conversations, but it's not something that I have extensive experience with. So I'm sure that I surround myself with people who do.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Cox is gonna be next.
Mr. Bolduc, Councilman Cox, how will you go about assessing the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and identifying opportunities to improve?
Okay, I have, since September of this year, I've been paying extremely close attention to all of the different activities going on within the city. I have met with over 20 residents, between residences and business owners, to try to discuss with them what they felt like were some of the things they liked about it, what their expectations for a new city manager would be, and then what they feel like are areas where maybe we could improve a little bit. So continuing that process forward is important. I also would spend a good amount of time getting to know the staff. I know a lot of the staff right now, but spending some time doing ride-alongs and things like that to try to get an idea of how the operation works currently. We're going to be in a transition period, so it's going to be important for me to understand how people have done things, what their expectations are moving forward, and then try to assess where we have some weaknesses and how to improve those. In addition to that, we'll do some strategic planning with City Council, and we'll be polling the public through some surveys and things like that.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Bolduc.
Number 3.
Good afternoon, sir. This is Shannon Hayes here. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
My question is, what will your first steps be upon assuming responsibility for this position if you're hired, and what do you hope to accomplish in your first year?
Okay. Well, the first thing is, the longer this process goes on, the further we get into the budget process. So immediately, I think it's going to be important that we do some strategic planning. As I mentioned in the last question, I've spent a lot of time at the council meetings, going back, watching old council meetings, and I want to make sure we have a good, clear picture of the direction that this council and that the public wants to take the city moving forward. So some of the first things we'll do is that strategic plan, and I think that will be essential. Also, as I said earlier, I'll spend time getting to know the staff, working with them, and because there's going to be changes to the personnel policy, a lot of that stuff has to occur, and so before we just go do that, it's really going to be, this first few months will be about getting to know how we do business and assessing things from that perspective. But I really believe that strategic planning is something that we need to do here pretty quickly.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Bolduc, this is Doug Faircloth, Councilman. What particular experience do you have with respect to budget preparation and finance? Give specific examples of how you addressed cost reduction in your most recent position.
Okay, to answer the first part of the question, I have experience with all aspects of trip compliance inside the state of Florida. So I'm familiar on developing the entire budget from beginning to end, posting advertisements, holding the meetings, scheduling and coordinating with the county and the school board and other local government to ensure we follow statutory requirements, how the ads are placed. So I have extensive experience in developing a budget from beginning to end. In my current position, I've actually had a lot of experience with finding efficiencies and developing saving cost measures through looking for efficiency. So again, a lot of that's going to depend on or be a part of me meeting with people, the current staff, evaluating how we do the process, and kind of seeing. One of the things I've noticed in reviewing the past few budgets for the city of Crestview is that we have had some growth in staff and growth in budget, and so we're just trying to go back and see where that growth is being used and determine if it's the most cost-effective way to do it. We have one of the higher millage rates in the state, so I want to make sure that we're using that revenue efficiently.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tim, I'm Councilman Joe Blocker. I want to thank you for showing your interest in submitting an application for the position of City Manager of Crestview. So I have a question. Briefly, share with us, this elected body of officials here, about your personal background, career goals, and achievement in managing municipal government operations that you were successful in.
Okay. Personally, I am I have been in Okaloosa County for most of my life. I moved here in 1979 with my family, so I've lived in the area up until just recently. I just recently relocated. My family is here, personally, I love the area. I've lived in the community, love to fish, do that kind of stuff. As far as local government experience, I've worked as you saw on my resume, in several smaller jurisdictions, and then in the city of Fort Walton Beach, which is very similar to what you have there. I think that my experience in community redevelopment areas, growth management, are areas, the changes and improvements that I've made in my current position, those specifically are things that I think will be beneficial in this transition period. I think in meeting with some of your contractors, some of your business owners, some of your residents, I think that some of the work that we've already done in the city of Fort Walton Beach for expediting development processes and things like that are things that I can bring forward to the city of Crestview. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Ms. Bulldog, JB Witten here again. Question number 2 from me. In your experience, what is the key to developing a good team?
You have to listen. The short, simple answer to that is you have to be able to listen. I think that if a leader comes in, especially in this particular situation, if a leader comes in with a bunch of preconceived ideas of how they have either run a city or run departments or managed multiple department heads, it's going to be difficult. You have good staff, I know, and have met with all of them except for one at some point, and so I believe that it's essential that an individual listens to them to find out how we do things, and so in order to build a good teamwork environment among the leadership, because that's where it trickles down from, I think we're going to all have to spend some time together. We'll do strategic planning at the department head level. We'll implement things like regular department head meetings and hopefully Ms. Roy will help us in attend those as well. But that getting people together, starting to get people focused on the city as one unit instead of individual departments is how I intend to build teamwork.
Thank you.
Mr. Bolduc, Councilman Cox here.
Yes, sir.
Question, what techniques have you found to be most successful in assisting local government officials establish and implement long and short range goals for the community?
And the short answer for that, Mr. Cox, is strategic planning. It is essential that we perform strategic planning in the city of Crestview. the Tri-County area. But in order for us to reach that potential, we have to figure out who we want to be moving forward, not lose our identity that we have as a county seat and 103 years of being a city. But we really need to do that. And so by doing strategic planning, I will gain from each of you where you want the city to go. And then we will together develop a plan to take us in that direction. And then anytime we spend money, anytime we make decisions, all of those decisions will be bounced off of our goals and objectives developed from the strategic plan.
Thank you, Mr. Bolduc.
Ms. Polk, this is Shannon Hayes once again. What do you do if you seriously disagree with the decision of the governing body?
As the city manager, my job is to implement policies developed by the local body. So, knowing that those decisions will be legal, I will implement whatever decisions are made by the governing body. That's my responsibility.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Doug Faircloth again. You mentioned that you have researched Crestview a little bit, and you've already mentioned some goals. I want to know, what are your long-term goals? And I'm not talking a cursory explanation. I'm talking about real goals.
For me, Mr. Faircloth, or for the city?
For the city.
My long-term goals for the city will be for us to be a leader in industry, and for us to fully experience the potential that we have with resources such as the interstate, the railways. We have a small airport nearby, and land. Quite frankly, one of the most frustrating things I deal with now in my current position is that it limits where we can go in the future because of land and access to an interstate. So my goals long-term will be to develop, first of all, we have to make sure that, I need to know what the council's goals are going to be. But my long-term goal is to make us a leader in whatever area we determine through our strategic planning we want to go. So if we want to have industry, if we want to do aerospace, whatever it is, then that'll make us a leader without losing our identity. Because Crestview has a great identity.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that was specific enough for you.
Mr. Tim, Joe Blocker again. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself in qualifications in management of all levels of Crestview local self-government system? And if at present, maybe possible, you may have some strong points or weak points. If so, would you care to explain or elaborate, please?
Yes, sir. I would say that on a scale of 1 to 10, the collective body of my experience as it relates specifically to the city of Crestview would put me at about an 8. I would say my strongest areas are definitely in growth management, in the development of individuals, people, putting the right people in the right place to accomplish the goal. Less about completing the specific task, but more big picture. If you would like for me to tell you where I think the weakest area I have will be in the contract negotiations for the unions. So we're going to spend some time getting up to speed on that, or the union. And other than that, I've managed every department that the city of Crestview has, other than a police department. So I feel very comfortable. In the city of Fort Walton Beach, where I've worked for 10 years, every decision that's made is done at department head meetings, and so we have a lot of experience, a lot of cross-coordination. So I feel very comfortable with all of the different departments of the city and my ability to effectively manage them with the right people in place.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
And we're back to me now, Mr. Whitten. My third and final question is, how do you keep or have kept the elected officials informed?
Very good question. I think that we should have regular meetings. It's very, very difficult to effectively manage it's very difficult for you to make educated decisions just based on the time you spend at a council meeting. So we will spend a lot of time together. Hopefully that's okay with you. Specifically, I like to, if we have big items coming up, you guys just passed the itinerant vendor ordinance. I would have wanted to spend some time with each of you to make sure you understood the ins and the outs of that ordinance, make sure that we were all on the same page. When we do important selection, you just selected a police officer. At some point, that will be under the purview of the city manager. So as we select department heads and things like that, you know, you and I, you as a body and myself will really need to be coordinating on that, because I'm an extension of you. And so we will hopefully have lots of meetings. I also would like to implement some public meetings with some of the council members where together we go and share to the public what we are accomplishing in the city. One of the things local government fails to do regularly is to notify the citizens the good things that we do.
Noted, thank you.
Mr. Bolduc, Councilman Cox, question is, do you have an overall philosophy or strategy regarding economic development?
Yes, sir. I believe that we, by and large, I believe that we should let the market decide. I am for regulation as long as regulation is appropriate. So one of the challenges that Crestview faces right now is the seed of growth. And so we want to grow, but we need to know what direction we want to go. Again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but strategic planning is going to be essential. Just because we fill spots doesn't mean that we're getting the highest, best use out of those spots. One of the things I appreciated at the last meeting is you guys had someone in there that's doing some targeted research for different industries, different stores and things like that. So if we're going to be successful in economic development, we got to figure out who we want to be and then actively pursue those types of groups. We need to make it a favorable place to come and work. They need to be able to permit. They need to be able to afford to be able to come. They need to be able to afford the connection fees and things like that. So I think that the best way for economic growth is to steer through planning, but regulate only as necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Bolduc.
Mr. Bowles, this is Shannon Hayes once again for my final question, and I appreciate you taking time to put in for this position, also your answers. My final question, how do you relate to citizens and citizen groups?
Well, as the Public Works Director, originally I was the Engineering and Utilities Director at the city. We head up, as heading up the Growth Management Department, we head up all the neighborhood groups. And so we do those, we do Citizens Advisory Committees. Crestview has a lot of committees. So that's one way to do it. I want to engage the citizens through public access. I want to engage them through things like Facebook. I would like to have, several times a month, maybe every other week, have one of you council members and or the mayor and myself at a public location where we can answer questions about what's going on in the city, keeping the citizens engaged. Here's what I know. You don't sit in a public office position if you don't want to do good things for the city. So since we're going to be doing good things, let's tell them about it. So I want to engage them as much as possible. And I think that social media and a good public information component is going to be essential. So we'll figure out how to work that into what we've got going.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Doug Fairclough again with the last question. What experience have you had in dealing with certain controversies within departments like the police department or fire department? And I'm talking like dissension from within, stuff that gets out to the media, that sort of thing.
Yes, sir. Another great question. I have a lot of experience with dealing with dissension inside of an organization. We build the team from the top down, and so that's all about personnel selection. I like to select well, and then if for some reason we don't select well, then we have to move people out. That's an unfortunate part of this job. What I have found in local government to be the greatest contributing factor to dissension among the ranks is a failure to deal with an issue where someone is not doing what they're supposed to be doing and everybody else is. And so a lot of times we can get to the root of that issue by identifying where that problem is and moving it out. Now, as far as public relations, when we have an issue, if there's something scandalous or something along that lines, really, I have dealt with that also on several different occasions. I actually had some people steal money from the checking account when I was in Louisville. So So dealing with that and dealing with the public, the newspaper, I really think we tell the truth and we engage them and tell the story. If we don't tell the story, somebody else will. And so it's important that we do that. We need to address things as they come up, and then we need to control the narrative.
Okay, thank you.
Tim, Joe Blocker again.
Mr. Blocker.
What is the most important to you if you are the selected candidate in establishing an effective working relationship of employees under your supervision, and your thoughts on how you would accomplish this delicate task?
The most important thing for me to establish a good working environment is to get to know the employees. So not come in with a bunch of preconceived ideas about how I can meet their needs. So we will accomplish that, Mr. Blocker, by implementing we'll do some surveys with the employees almost immediately. When you select me, if you select, no, I'm kidding. Hopefully you'll select me, and if you do, then within the first couple of months, we'll do meet and greets. I'll do ride-alongs. I'll spend time riding with police officers, riding with the firemen, working with the fleet guys. When I took my position as a public works director, I did that here, and I found it super effective because you get to find out what's important to the people. And then it helps us also when it comes time to identify how to find efficiencies, and then how do we make sure that our employees are being taken care of on a limited budget. You can't do that if we just try to determine what they need. Getting to know them, spending time with them is going to be very, very important. So my first steps will be let's survey them, let me get out and meet them, and we'll do some meet and greets and things like that, and hopefully we'll find out exactly what they need. You have good staff right now, and so I want to do a good job of putting everybody together and pulling in the right direction.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
And that ends our questioning, Tim. I appreciate you putting in for the job and meeting with us this evening via video. And we're now going to shut you down.
Right. Well, you guys have a good night.
All right. Thank you. Bye. Somehow we got back on time.
We did, actually, we're ahead of
Just by a little bit.
I did tell the,
Does need to break.
other two gentlemen, the one,
Doug, you need to be excused?
Yes,
Well, go ahead and do it now.
5 minutes.
all right, I'm not saying anything.
We'll convey it to him.
It's basically, I told them we wouldn't be early, so we got 10 minutes. I had a thought when we decide what we wanna do on the 4th. We need to decide the time we're gonna start the interviews, which will probably depend on how many people we're gonna interview. And the second thing is, I was thinking this afternoon about if we're gonna have our interviews starting at 5:30, that we do a kind of an open house from 4 to 5:30, bring in coffee, cakes, cookies, invite the public in, let them meet with the people who are gonna be interviewing before we actually start the interview process that day. So what do y'all think? Kind of a meet and greet, y'all can come in and talk to them, they can come in and talk, y'all already seen them, so the public can come in and talk to them. Department heads can come in and talk to them.
I like the idea, but 4 o'clock, they're still stuck out on State Road 85.
They're gonna be staying, well, I know, but,
Yeah, it's a bit, I'm saying it's a bit early for the citizens.
well,
To be
then
here.
we can start the interview early. But it would not be too early for the department heads to come in to talk to them.
No, but I'm talking about the public being able to come in and
Yeah.
meet with them, because that.
If we don't
that's a
start
good-
the we can start the interviews at 6, and that gives them an hour.
What y'all think? I mean, I think it's good to
I
have
like-
people here, but I just think 4's too early.
Mr. President,
Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with, the idea is great, the timing, I don't know if it's that great, but, I think it's good that the public have an opportunity to meet and chat with them prior to, us asking the questions, before the meeting start. Some of the citizens might wanna say, well, why don't you inquire about this or something like that, which is nothing wrong with
What's your
it.
suggested time then? To begin the open house?
I think 5 was a reasonable time with, interviewing, probably starting at 6.
Mr. Blocker is here. And
Yeah, I've been asked the question, are we gonna get to see these candidates before y'all select one? I said, yeah, watch your computers. Said, no, I wanna look at them in person. But I think we ought to be able to start the interview around 5:30 to 6. But I'd like to see the people fill this thing up here and all the side shows and everything.
I mean, you can start at any time, the citizens, if you want 5 o'clock, but there's no reason we couldn't start it at 4 and give the department heads and employees in time to come in and talk to them too.
Mr. Clark, you have any preference on time?
No, but I think we should have, as Betsy suggested, coffee and desserts and so available for the applicants. We're getting us down to the final 3, and we want to put our best foot forward as a city to them.
I mean, if you determine tonight if you're gonna do 2, 3, 4, however many you're gonna bring in, then we can determine what time we need to start.
Any thoughts on the beginning of the time for the open house?
I'm open on that, but even this evening, when we're narrowing down finalists, the actual physical turnout from the public in this room is kind of low. So,
The only issue I would have with waiting till 5 o'clock is if we have a lot of citizens in here, then the department heads are gonna have no time to talk to them, because they're gonna be tied up talking to the citizens, and I think that's an important issue too. Lisa's nodding at me, and she has a gun, so I'm.
Any other thoughts?
I have a thought, Mr. President, far as she's making reference to the, department heads and everything. I'm hoping that whoever we call in doesn't get here 5 o'clock. I would assume they get here the day before. They might set aside some time where they'll have open time frame where anybody, department heads or anybody else can come by and just converse with them. That's mine,
Well, the day before would be Sunday, so I don't think they'll.
well, it's travel.
I mean, they can be here
Why
all
not-
day.
Why not
Plane's flying on
invite,
Sunday.
I'm sorry,
Excuse me.
why not invite them to come in and meet with the department heads at 4 o'clock and then have the open house here starting at 5? And everybody gets a share in that.
I like that.
Do you like that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, set a time, and if they're interested in being our city manager, they will meet that time schedule.
Let's do that. Okay. Tell them to block out that time, meet with department heads at 5 o'clock, come on in and,
Come on in.
all right. Have the open house and then begin questioning at 5:30,
5:30, 6 o'clock.
5:30?
We can, I mean, we just have it in here and have everything in here, department heads
Yeah.
can come in, and everything's, we don't have to move from here to here to here. If we have a Monday night like we had last night, I don't think we're gonna be driving around anywhere.
All right.
All right, we got 5 minutes, what else y'all want?
Okay, so that's when and what time?
The final interviews are, Monday night, February the 4th. So the, department head meeting would be at 4, public meeting at 5, or public reception at 5, and interviews starting at 5:30.
Does the city provide housing for these folks?
That was brought up at the last meeting, we'll pay for their expenses. As long as they're not staying at Sandestin Resort. They have to stay in Crestview.
And probably some of the restaurant managers might provide a meal for them, you never know. Got a luncheon or something like that.
Well, I mean, it'll just, when we start getting their travel schedules, when you determine how many you're gonna bring in, and we start making arrangements with them, and then we'll see what's going on. I mean, I'll probably block out the whole day to spend time with them, so.
Go ahead, Councilman Carr.
yes, on, recommend, local hotels. We've got plenty of nice ones. Also, out-of-town people, probably aren't aware of the, afternoon traffic jam. So if they're staying down on the south end of the county, they could easily be late.
Yeah,
And
well, we're going to.
we need to have them close by.
I'm going to recommend that, well, particularly if we'll offer to make their reservations for them. And then we can make them wherever we want to make them, and if we're gonna pay for the reservations, then,
They stay where we pay for.
yeah. Huh? And we won't pay sales tax, that's right.
think that's good, because we want to be asking the good questions. This is a serious event here. Mr. Vance, can you hear us okay? Can you hear us?
Elizabeth Boyd, this is the second time I used Skype. I didn't know how to talk back to you.
That's okay.
But you can hear us okay though, right?
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going.
Yes, how do I say?
All right, good enough. Anyway, thank you for putting in your application here. Welcome to downtown Crestview. I'm the President of the Council, J.B. Witten, and I have, what we're going to do, sir, is we got 5 councilmen here, 3 questions apiece, and 30 minutes. So you're gonna have about 2 minutes apiece for each question, just so you can gauge what you're gonna need to do, okay? Hello? Okay? I have the first question. You ready? Have a little, okay, get the time delay with you. What experience do you have with respect to personnel, labor relations, and collective bargaining?
Can we, I'm having a tough time hearing you. Can we try the connection one more time and see if that helps?
Okay, we can do that. We won't take away from your time. Okay, can you hear us better now?
It's going real good the other day, but I'm starting a hard time hearing you. What about if you, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Don't let my accent throw you now.
Well, could somebody, maybe Caesar could give you a cell phone, and whoever asks a question could ask a question on the cell phone so I can hear it, and then I can respond since you can hear me clearly.
We can do that. Once we call in your line, though, we'll lose the video, but that's okay. We can do it audio only.
Do you have a separate number we can call from instead of their Skype line?
You have a cell, you're on landline, right? You're on landline right now. If you give you the cell phone, you, we got that delay in there.
We have a separate number and it won't cut your video off.
All right. Can you hear me, Mr. Vance?
Yeah, it's getting a little better.
Yeah, would,
Let's try it.
All right, go ahead. He said, let's try, so.
okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, what experience do you have with respect to personnel, labor relations, and collective bargaining?
I think I got it, Caesar. A tremendous amount. In Lake Florida, I was there for 5.5 years, and in Pickerington, Ohio, I dealt with the FOP unions, the ASME unions, collective bargaining every couple of years, grievances, arbitrations, labor attorneys, A to Z.
Okay, Mr. Vance, thank you. I'm turning you over to Councilman Cox for his question.
Mr. Vance, this is Councilman Cox. Pickering, Ohio, East Columbus suburb. Question is, how will you go about assessing the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and identifying opportunities to improve?
Okay, Caesar, you can pick that up. Caesar, if anybody can ask, I just need to hear what the question was.
Do you need the question repeated?
Caesar, I can hear you clearly. What was the question?
Here.
Talk us
That would
through.
be good.
Okay, the question is, how will you go about assessing the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and identifying opportunities to improve?
Okay, thank you very much. I believe testing the strengths of the organization and the weaknesses of the organization comes with experience. When you're a new manager, and I've been a new manager 4 times, going to a different location, at each location, further in your career, you bring more and more experience with you. But I think you have to be patient to see how things come about, not act too rashly. But experience leads you to believe at a responsible point in time that you can work with the individuals on staff, you can work with the mayor, you can work with council, and you can put forth ideas and recommendations substantiated by facts associated with experiences you've had in the past. You're in a position to begin to make positive change. So I would say not rush into it, just seize opportunities to coordinate change, do so in a collective manner, not heavy-handed, not indicating we were doing this, but now we're going to do that. Use a team approach and from that point forward, also, I'm always prepared to stop on a dime and go in a different direction if doing so, was necessitated by, whatever objectives we had to meet at the current time. The local government is a changing dynamic, so obviously you have to be flexible as well.
Thank you, Mr. Vance.
Mr. Vance, this is Shannon Hayes, City Councilman. My question, what will your first steps be upon assuming responsibility for this position if you're selected? And what do you hope to accomplish in your first year?
Well, my first initial step will be getting to know all the players, developing relationships with the mayor and individual council members, developing relationships with department heads, meeting individual employees, meeting with civic groups, state and other regional leaders as well at the county level and state level, and getting to know as much about these cities I can. I'll be delving into diving into the budget, the capital improvement program, safety programs are extremely important to me, employee safety programs. So if there's not currently a safety program, I would definitely head in that direction in the immediate future. If there was a safety program, I would be, working with the individuals involved to make sure that it was meeting all of its objectives. Employee safety as well as public safety are my number one priorities in local government. And they also, obviously, help the city with its liability. So just getting familiar with my surroundings, getting familiar with the people I'm working with, maintaining active communication. What I communicate to one, I communicate to all on the council, the mayor and council, so nobody's going to get caught by surprise. And always putting those I work for in a position to be successful and knowledgeable about what's going on around them. Maybe not all the small operational things, but if the city's going to be doing anything of any significance, working on a street or digging a ditch or taking down a tree, it's going to be of interest. Sure that those in leadership roles, are knowledgeable as to what's going on around them and why.
All right, thank you, sir.
Mr. Vance, I'm Doug Fairclough, City Councilman. My first question is, what particular experience do you have with respect to budget preparation and finance? And give specific examples of how you address cost reduction in your position now.
Okay, well, I've been involved with 23 local government budgets. In every state that I've had, the manager has been responsible to put forth the budget proposal. So I actually, as the manager, worked with the finance director, worked with the individual department heads, coordinated the different budget meetings with the department heads, where department heads would identify what operational priorities they had, what equipment priorities they had, what facility priorities they had, and then we would put forth an initial proposal. You put together all the expenditures and put together all the projected revenues, and if there were to be a deficit, then obviously you have to start negotiating some cuts. I've always prided myself professionally on bringing a balanced budget to the elected leadership that I work for. Working within the means that I had to work with. At Pickerington, I got to Pickerington in 2010. I left Pickerington in
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vance, my name is Joe Blocker, City Councilman. First, I want to say thank you for showing interest in submitting an application for the position of City Manager of Crestview, Florida. Question number 1. Briefly, share with this body of elected officials about your personal background, career goals, and achievements in managing municipal government operations that you were successful in.
Thank you, sir. Personally, I grew up in Durham, North Carolina. I went to school at Appalachian State. I fulfilled my academic requirements in 1993. I went to Franklinton, North Carolina, where I got married, and it was a package deal. I had a stepdaughter who was 6 at the time, and my daughter came along in 1998. Learned a great deal in a small town environment where you don't really have any staff to work with. The manager is the finance director, the Parks and Rec director, the HR director. Followed that experience up, moving on to Luray, Virginia, a town of 4,800, so a little bit bigger than Franklinton. And what I really enjoyed in those rural settings, and I feel that it's similar in Crestview, is the opportunity to be of personal assistance to the public at large on a daily basis. You see them at work, you see them when you go to the grocery store, you see them when you go to the restaurant, you see them when you go to the golf course. So my biggest professional priorities throughout my career thus far has been to help others on a daily basis. And local government allows you to be in the position where you can provide immediate assistance, and I think that is one of the biggest responsibilities of any town or city or village. I went on to Florida, Lady Lake, Florida, right outside the Villages. If anybody's familiar with the Villages, I experienced helping develop over $180 million worth of responsible development activities, incorporated design standards, was part of constructing a sewer plan and putting down water and sewer lines. So actually seeing the evolution of a process to provide the infrastructure necessary to capitalize on the market that you have to take advantage of, and seeing that responsible good-looking development pop out of the ground, that's also been another highlight in my professional career. And in Pickerington is a 20,000 suburb city of Columbus, Ohio. The economy is very good up here, but it sure is cold, and that's why I'm looking to hit back south. But provided a high level of quality of life services, which I think is one of the last biggest priorities that a local government's supposed to do is to make sure that your customer service, your municipal services are the highest efficiency, because that provides a great quality of life, and it also protects local property values.
Thank you, sir.
Is there anything else I need to expand on?
Mr. Vance, Councilman Witten here again. Question number 2 for you. In your experience, what is the key to developing a good team?
Well, I think the first key to developing a good team is to have good teammates. I've always excelled working with serious local government employees, professionals that like being successful, that like being part of a successful team and doing good things and seeing positive results occur as a result. And that's a vast majority of the people I've worked with in my career. So I would put together a good team of serious, successful professionals at the department head level, and ideally that would be everybody. Have staff meetings every couple of weeks before council meetings, so every department knows what other departments are up to, because so many of our functions at the local government level are interrelated. But the biggest thing is taking a collective approach, taking in input, putting forth the best idea that will be a successful game plan for the team, and ultimately for the mayor and the council that we work for and represent, out in the field every day.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Vance, Councilman Cox here. The question, what techniques have you found to be most successful in assisting local government officials establish and implement long and short-range goals for the community?
I think the budgeting process is an excellent opportunity to definitely establish long-term goals. I don't know the status of your capital improvement plan program for the city of Crestview, but a 5-year CIP plan, identifying funding, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, keeps things moving along. In the short term, identifying things at the staff level, identifying things at the individual council level. I think anything and everything can always be discussed as a business item on any council agenda, provided the resources are realistic. You put it forward with potential recommendation for action, and that's more meeting the short-term needs, meeting the unforeseen, unexpected needs that come along, seemingly on a daily, weekly, monthly basis in local government operations and serving the public.
Thank you, Mr. Vance.
Mr. Vance, Councilman Hayes back once again. And my second question to you. What do you do if you seriously disagree with the decision of the governing body?
Support it, number one, publicly. Individually, I would imagine leading up to that decision, I would have the opportunity to put together a recommendation and utilize pertinent staff as necessary and identify the pros and cons with the policy direction proposals that were being discussed. And at that point in time, I've done my job, and it's the job of policymakers to point the city in the direction get it based on what makes me able to make a decision.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, it's Doug Faircloth again with my second question. If you have researched Crestview, you probably have noticed some deficiencies or things we may be lacking. We also maybe have something that where we excel. So I would like you to give me some specific long-term goals and be specific.
Well, I haven't done too much research, but situations that I've assumed managerial responsibilities for in the past, it's seemingly, they all had challenges. And starting in Franklinton and ending in Pickerington thus far in my career,
Mr. Vance, Joe Blocker again. You're breaking up a little bit at times. I hope this is better. Question number 2. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself in qualifications in management of all levels of Crestview's local government, self-government system? And if at present, maybe possibility you may have some strong points or weak points, would you care to elaborate and explain, please?
I don't believe anybody's perfect, but as far as my capabilities to be a successful city manager in Crestview with the support of the mayor and council, because we would be a team, and my support of your objectives and your support of my objectives as determined ultimately by your policies and our budget process would be a requirement to allow for me to achieve a ranking. I can't say a 10, although I feel absolutely confident I have every professional talent that I would need to fulfill my responsibilities there. I'll say a 9. But a city manager is not an expert on everything. After 23 years, I have a great deal of knowledge of economic development, of water, of sewer, of streets, of paving, of HR, of labor, of all kinds of things, of risk management, of insurance policies necessary for the city. And I have the ability to ask the right questions and to point people in the right direction, not to micromanage, but to assist with avenues that I've known to be successful, and while doing so also, once again, get that feedback so that we collectively can change direction if necessary. So I'm very confident. I'm hesitant to put an actual number on it, but I'd say 9-ish, right around 10.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Mr. Vance, Councilman Witten here again for my last question. How do you keep or have kept the elected officials informed?
The best avenue I found to be is utilization of email. I would create an email grouping for the mayor and council. And it started back when I was in Lady Lake, and everything I do, everything we do, I like to think that we're absolutely proud of. And our objective is always a good objective to do the right thing. So I actually had, as you know, in Florida, freedom of information requests are quite prevalent. And so the email that I sent out to the mayor and commission in Lady Lake, it actually went to the 3 papers as well, because it provided good, proactive information as to the strides the city was taking and reasonings behind the directions we were headed, and we were proud of everything. The press was educated as to what was going on. The mayor and the council were educated as to what was going on, and everything was above board. So I'd say the utilization of email, and hopefully that's a popular thing in Crestview.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Vance, Councilman Cox here. The question is, do you have an overall philosophy or strategy regarding economic development?
Yes. I think you have to, you've got to create a market. You've got to make sure that your local government, has been very supportive of commercial services, very supportive residential services. You've got to have a residential market, ideally, that's growing. The more housetops means, the more customers, the more traffic on commercial corridors. Economic developers, commercial interests, they chase traffic, obviously. You have to make sure that you're planning development services, once again, are efficient, knowledgeable, have necessary resources to negotiate standards which guarantee complementary development that basically helps increase property values of those properties around it, and they affect those values. Economic development, you just can't snap your fingers and get there. A lot of building blocks, the building market, here's foundation, is responsible economic development services.
Thank you, Mr. Vance.
Finding a way to say yes, as opposed to ask, a developer to do 15 things associated with a set of things, and they buy by everything you've asked for, and then you turn around and ask them for another 15 things. I think you need to go ahead and identify what's the simple need from them, and once they provide it to you, it's like a contract where you get the responsibility as a local government, economic development to go forward and find ways for investments to be made in the community that are going to be good for all.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vance.
Mr. Vance, this is Councilman Hayes once again with a final question. How do you relate to citizens and citizen groups?
On a very personal level, I'm very supportive of staying involved with local citizen groups. Although I don't like to join all of them. I like to be involved with all of them, because I don't think if you join every group, give that group the time it deserves as far as volunteering, etc. As far as communicating with individual citizens, I've got a policy, and I encourage citizens to call me, and I will happily go to somebody's house. I will happily go to somebody's business. I will happily, with the appropriate department heads, that they can witness whatever needs to be witnessed. You get water, super problem, is problem, or fire problem, actually get deals going on, and come up with a deal when they get the department head, and with the citizens, consider that's necessary, and we even have several something that we can trip up. It's not. That's the reputation. I always found it very
All right, thank you, sir.
You want to continue like?
I think we need to reconnect the audio. You're falling out quite a bit, Mr. Vance. I think we need to hang up and reconnect the audio. Can we do that, please?
Yeah, just need to tell him over the phone, because he won't be able to hear. Not that audio, but the audio on the here. It's this audio that's the problem, not that problem, so let him know we're gonna call him back.
Okay, but I thought we were getting the audio, he's getting the audio only from this?
Yes,
Okay, all right, so you can hear us fine.
through the phone, yeah.
Not if you can hear us fine. Okay, we're gonna reconnect the video because you're breaking up a lot.
Okay, all right.
It's snowing in Ohio.
Oops.
Maybe his phone service. Okay, we're here.
Yeah, can you hear us
Yes.
okay?
Yeah, that's better.
Well, yeah, we got you.
Okay, well, we're gonna try it again. It's Doug Faircloth again, and this is my last question for you. What experience have you had in dealing with controversies in within the different departments in the city, particularly the fire department or police department, things that the media like to get a hold of?
Well, negotiating police contracts in Lady Lake, the FOP has membership, they're extremely active, and we had arbitrations where, since we had a police officer who disobeyed a direct order in writing, and the state obviously recommended termination because that's about a serious insubordination you can have. It took us 9 months to get to arbitration. The arbitrator indicated the termination was too severe. Somebody you will trust and send them out direct for a investigation for the
Started out well, but you really gone back to breaking up, so we can't really hear everything you're saying.
How about now?
Okay, now can you hear us, Mr. Vance?
Yes, sir. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
much better.
Okay. Once again, negotiating. This is an example of police negotiating an FOP contract and actually negotiated the independent arbitrator out of the contract, which obviously the FOP did not want to give up because, at least in my experiences in Lady Lake, the arbitrator essentially always ruled against management. And it took forever to get to arbitration, so you'd have to turn around and you'd be shorthanded for 5 or 6 months, and then you'd have to repay 5 or 6 months in back pay. So we put forth an idea that we would have a citizens advisory board. I believe it was made up of 5 members, and they would serve as the arbitrator. So if the city was going to lose arbitrations, at the very least, our own citizens would be returning those police officers to active duty. And obviously they would be subject to the same decision-making or hopefully better decision-making going forward. So that was controversial, and the FOP always like to say we're at an impasse, and you had the villages where the city of Pickerington the city of Lady Lake, town of Lady Lake had 10,000 of its 15,000 residents and a daily newspaper and a television station. And it was always contract impasse, and there's a lot of retired, police and fire personnel. So standing by our guns was not an easy thing to do, but it was the right thing to do. And at the end of the day, we actually got the citizens review board included in the next contract.
Okay, well, again, I apologize for the little problem, but that's going to be history. My last question to you tonight: what is most important to you if you are the selected candidate in establishing an effective working relationship of employees under your supervision, and thoughts on how you would accomplish this delicate task?
Well, upon my potential arrival from day one, it'd be a blank sheet of paper for everybody. It'd be a new day. Everything that happened in the past was the past, unless there's certain things in personnel files that just cannot be ignored. But other than that, going forward, if everybody is a professional, then they have nothing to worry about, and they're going to be successful. I don't know the status of job descriptions in Crestview, but I'm a big believer in having employees sign off on their individual job descriptions, so there's no confusion as to what they understand they're supposed to do on a daily basis, or all the things they could do on a daily basis. I like to include a professionalism statement on those job descriptions where individual employees acknowledge that they are going to behave in a professional manner when they come, in the workplace. And that's, not being dramatic. That's not stirring up drama. That's not being negative. That's taking the office politics out of it. and everybody is expected to play their role as identified on their job description, and no role is more important than any other role, and everybody effectively and successfully playing the role is going to, guarantee a successful organization, a professional organization, and a successful city, and obviously a successful mayor and council.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Vance, this concludes our interview. Thank you so much for joining us.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And we'll be in touch with you.
All right.
Stay
Sounds
warm.
good.
Stay warm.
Thanks, Elizabeth Roy.
I have to go to the backup, Right now, it's potty break time.
Since you insist, Mr. President.
I'll be ready to go home and get something to eat.
I ate before I came here, so I'm good for eating.
How do you think he is Akimi or Akame? I think it's Akame. That's what we call him. You correct me. Mr. Acme, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Oh, good. Welcome to beautiful downtown Crestview.
Thank you.
Let me just give you a couple words before we begin the interview process, and that is we have 5 councilmen up here. We have 30 minutes for the interview, 3 questions apiece. So it would be incumbent upon you to try to keep your answers to about 2 minutes. That'll get us through the process in 30 minutes. I'm the president of the council, J.B. Witten, and I'm going to kick everything off with my first question. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Got a little time delay here. Okay. What experience do you have with respect to personnel, labor relations, and collective bargaining?
Personnel, labor relations, and collective bargaining
Yes, sir.
have been part and parcel of my experience for the last 30 years. I have sat in many committees or task forces that negotiated union contracts over the years. Whether in police, fire, housemen, international brotherhood of electrical workers, you name the particular contract or the union, I have dealt with it. I feel very, very comfortable negotiating union contracts and agreements with them.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to turn you over to Councilman Cox now.
Yes, sir, Mr. Cox.
Mr. Akame, Councilman Cox. Question is, how will you go about assessing the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and identifying opportunities to improve?
Well, the first and foremost, we need to meet with you individually or in a formal setting to establish what your objectives and goals are. I will also participate in doing that with you. But when it's all said and done, you as a body direct what those objectives and goals will be. There are tools you can use to spread those out. You have surveys you can conduct, and you have meetings with the general public. From that built up by the body, I will proceed in that direction. But you will be driving the train.
Ms. Acme, I need to interrupt you a moment. You're dropping out so badly that I think we need to go to a phone-to-phone connection.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's not your fault. You're dropping out to us. We can't hear everything you're saying.
Okay.
So if we could do that, what we did, Madam Clerk, the last time, or Caesar, whoever's going to do it. Hang on just a minute. We'll be giving you a call.
Okay.
You want to ask him to repeat his answer as soon as you get done whistling?
So are you through with?
No, but once you ask him to continue to respond to your question. I couldn't hear what you were saying.
Okay, Mr. Alchemy, this is Councilmember Cox. Can you respond to the question I asked you, or I'll repeat it if you need?
Yes, please, repeat it.
Okay. Question is, how will you go about assessing the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and identifying opportunities to improve?
Hold on, Mr. Cox.
Like a submarine.
Telling somebody at his end to do it, not us.
He's passing his laptop.
It's too close to his laptop.
On your phone? Yeah. What is it? Yeah.
We have to turn it back.
Turn the volume back up.
I don't know how to turn it up. Okay, I can hear you.
Okay.
Good. Well, not so good.
Hello?
Yes, Mr. Alchemy.
Yeah, just go voice.
Let's go forward.
Question again. How will you go about assessing the strengths and weaknesses of the organization and identifying opportunities to improve?
Mr. Carson, I will do is follow your leadership as a group, BPG, individually, need be, and come up with goals and objectives that we all can support. I feel that such a process will also include talking to residents at large and the business community as well. There are tools you can use to conduct a survey. Depending on what you approve, we'll do a survey. That needs to be the avenue we take. If there's a need to have community meetings, we will do that. But basically, I will be coming up with the ideas, and with your approval, we'll move forward to determine the strengths and weaknesses and areas that we need to work on for the community at large.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Alchemy.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Alchemy, this is Councilman Shannon Hayes. And my question is, what will your first steps be upon assuming responsibility for this position? What do you hope to accomplish in your first year, if you're elected?
Yes, sir. Well, if I'm fortunate to be elected, I think you'll be making the right decision. I will try to establish within the first 90 days what direction you all will support us doing in areas of finance, budget, in areas of goals and objectives, which we touched on earlier. I will establish those objectives and I will start working on them immediately. I've done this before. I will come up with a plan that you'll adopt to move forward. One of the reasons I'm interested in the job is that you as a community have determined that you want to go with the council manager form of government. And that's half the battle right there, because most communities are still at the stage of making that decision. And it looks like you're committed to it. And I will be part of everything you do. I've run leadership to see it. And I will once you give me the direction, I'll make things happen, starting within the first 90 days. After the first year, I think the best way would be to look back and see where we were when I started. I can guarantee you'll be very pleased. A lot of my evaluations over the years, the accomplishment of objectives are very high. They range from satisfactory to outstanding over a 30-year period. So I will bring that kind of performance to your community and to the beautiful city of Crestview.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, this is Doug Fairclough, Councilman. My first question is excuse me. What particular experience do you have with respect to budget preparation and finance? Give specific examples of how you address cost reduction in your most recent position.
Well, that's a very good question, Councilman. I manage budgets ranging from tens of millions of dollars to hundreds of millions of dollars. In fact, in my capital budget, it has 400 million. But in operating budget, it's between 10 and over $100 million. Basically, I will make sure that it's a balanced budget. I've seen your millage, which you've all kept pretty low. We'll try to maintain that. And almost every budget I've managed, I've had to make sure that there are areas where the reduction are needed, that they're carried out. I have even under direction privatized solid waste in one job, and in the other job I brought it back from the contractor in-house. It depends on what the cost to the taxpayer is. We want to keep that as low as possible and as practical. I will try to pursue grants to help, ease some of the budget pressures, and I will work with you all to have a balanced budget at all time. I have never submitted a budget that was not balanced, and when I operate the budget, I have a very, very tight controls, make sure that we stay within budget, and my saying is that the best surprise is no surprise. If there's a need to make any kind of mid-course correction, I will talk to you all and present it to you before, ahead of the curve, not behind the curve.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Vince. My name is Joe Blocker, Councilman, Crestview. First, I'm going to say thank you for showing your interest in submitting an application for the position of City Manager of Crestview, Florida. Question number one. Briefly, share with this body of elected officials about your personal background, career goals, and achievements in managing municipal government operations that you were successful in.
Okay, as I said, I bring in a 30-year experience in local and municipal government. I started off my career as a Director of Transportation for a 9-county region, still at the Louisville, Kentucky. There were 7 counties in Kentucky and 2 in Indiana. I worked in the organization to bring Louisville into compliance
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
We're on to round two. Councilman Witten here again. My second question to you is, in your experience, what is the key to developing a good team?
Yes, very good question. I think that a good team needs objectives and effectiveness. And to do that, there's the element of trust. I, as your manager, will be in the middle of everything. I see myself as a translator. I translate the objectives and desires of the staff up to you. And when you give directions, or by consensus, or by actual vote, or by resolution, or ordinance, I translate that to the staff. I think that communication is very important, and giving people a heads up and not be surprised on both ends of that spectrum is very important. And I've heard to telling the truth, and over time, both my bosses and my staff learn to trust me, and they believe that my word is good, and that commands respect. I'm very well liked by most of my staff. My management style is participatory, consultative, empowerment. Somebody's doing a good job and they have the ability to do it, let them do it. If somebody's struggling, give them a hand, give them some suggestions, and work with them. I've developed staff, I've hired and trained staff at all kinds of levels. And I think that when we're successful, that will be very, very helpful to Crestview now that you're going in a different direction than you were with a new form of government.
All righty. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Akame, Councilman Cox here.
Yes, sir.
The question is, what techniques have you found to be most successful in assisting local government officials establish and implement long and short-range goals for the community?
The techniques that I found most effective are to have a retreat, and sometimes the staff has the time. Staff can do the coordinator of such a meeting. More often than not, sir, for a very small fee, you can retain a professional to work with us and guide us through that process of coming up with our goals and objectives. Of course, I mentioned earlier, you can do a survey of your general population, but that can be expensive. I think that I do also walk about, talk to the residents, be available to go to wherever there's a gathering. I have city managers invited, go in there and interact with them, see what they think, what they desire, and I'll bring it back and share with the city council members. And I know that you're all very good in what you do. Well, been elected because you're good at what you're doing, and I think I would listen very carefully to what you suggest as a direction to go. So I will carry out your objectives. I will work with you. I think that no plan is set in concrete. Things happen, and as things happen, from time to time, you do need course correction. You take another look at what was agreed to and see how you can improve on it.
Thank you, Mr. Akame.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Akame, this is Councilman Hayes once again. My second question to you will be, what do you do if you seriously disagree with the decision of the governing body?
Wow. I will hope that that doesn't happen, but let's be frank. It will occur. I know that people like you, Councilman Hayes, you've been in government and you've followed in the footsteps of your parents. Somebody like that is very valuable to me. If I'm struggling with something like that, I probably would meet with the councilman individually and see if there's a middle ground, a meeting of the minds. This will be done privately, not in the newspapers, I hope. But I can also assure you that I have been in situations where, to give you an example, when I was working for the mayor of Stamford, Connecticut, city about 100,000, there was a conflict between him and the chair of the transportation committee, the Greater Stamford Transit District chair. I was in the middle of it. It was very trying, but patience paid off. I kept talking to both of them until all three of us came to an understanding regarding the purchase of 3 trolley buses that were supposed to revitalize downtown. The disclaimer was how quickly should we put those buses out after I acquired them. They were like $150,000 each. But we finally worked it out, and all three of us stayed trustless. That's an example of my experience.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, it's Doug Faircloth again with my second question.
Yes, sir.
If you've done any research on a computer about Crestview, you may have found some deficiencies or something that we're excelling in. I'm curious as to what long-term goals you would set to improve Crestview, and please be specific.
Yes, sir. I think that this, from what I read, is the fast growing area, unprecedented growth, according to the material I read. And that growth has to be managed so that it's the type of growth you want. So I think that I will be able to help the council and the community in managing that growth. I've seen the staff you have and the growth management. She knows that stuff. I'll work with her. I think that long range, Crestview has a very distinct opportunity to be a star. Even though you're called the hub city of the Northwest, I think that there's a good future for the city of Crestview, and I want to be part of it. I think that I probably will work for another 10 years or longer, and if I were successful, I would not be looking for another job as far as I'm concerned. I'll come in there and be your city manager as long as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Vince, Mr. Blocker again.
Yes, Mr. Blocker.
On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate yourself in qualifications, in management, all levels of Crestview's local self-government system? And if at present, maybe a possibility you might have some strong points or weak points. If you would you care to comment, explain, please?
Yes, sir. I think that my strong points is getting things done. If we have a mission and we agree to, I will make them happen, either as a group or in a singular way. I think that my ability to make things happen being demonstrated in my resume that I submitted to you. It's kind of detailed. I apologize for that, but I think I want to make sure that you know what I have done in the past. It's not easy to have those kinds of accomplishments without being hands-on, with some tenacity to get things done, and the ability to get along with people to achieve some of the things that I have done in the last 30 years. Of those 30 years, 22, 23 of them is in Florida, mostly in Central and upper parts of Florida. I have maintained a consulting position. In between jobs, I consult. And that's what's going on now. But when I take on a job, it's 100% dedication. I pay attention to the details and manage effectively, if you will. So if I'm given the opportunity, we will have no regrets. As for weaknesses, I am a very, very cautious and very, very cautious person. I may have made mistakes in the past, but I think you learn from every situation. And I think I've pushed to the limit where I feel that my errors and mistakes are very, very minimal.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Butler.
We're now going into the third and final round. So my last question is, how do you keep or have kept the elected officials informed?
Well, it depends on what the particular elected official prefers. Some like to sit down and talk one-on-one. That's fine with me. I'll always be available. Some like their reports. Give me a report on the subject. And, I'll look at it. I will prepare such a report. I will be very careful to avoid any violation of sunshine laws, given that this state, Florida, is one of the strongest sunshine laws states. So we have to be careful about that. But my priority, make sure that nobody is in the dark. Keep informed. I approach my job as a 24/7. And if a councilman needs me or my attention, I'll be all ears and follow through. And then I will report to the full council on the developments that are going on.
That's good. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Akame, Councilman Cox, the question is, do you have an overall philosophy or strategy regarding economic development?
Yes. I think economic development has been part and parcel of all my jobs that I've held. For example, in DeSoto County, one of the things I did there was to bring in infrastructure because Walmart was coming to town. It's a 1 million square feet regional distribution center. There was a lot of competition between the county and some of the nearby municipalities. They couldn't go anywhere. We had to agree to quickly develop a utility system. And that was the winning hand in that particular case for the county of DeSoto. They did get established. And one of the driving factors was because a lot of the young people will graduate and leave town, never to be heard again from this, by the families, and wanted to do something that will provide jobs locally. So they would stay in DeSoto. At that time, DeSoto was sort of rural or semi-rural. So this particular move to spend about $20 million in grants, which I helped put together, helped to address that particular concern of the drain of their young family members that move out, and even though they love their family dearly, they go where the jobs are. We also work with the state college there to develop some classes for people that would like to train, whether that's a mechanic or some specialty that the community can use. Again, the emphasis was to make sure that the kids will come back after high school or college and contribute to that community. That's an example of what the philosophy of economic development. So depending on the situation, depending on the city, it could represent a different set of values that you want to pursue. And I think that my 30-year experience, every one of those years always included one form of economic development or another. I even served in the Louisville Economic Development Corporation myself as a member. That's some years back, and it's always been interesting economic development. My wife was director of economic development in Louisville. So as a family, we share a lot of thoughts and discussions about economic development. She's an expert in her own rights. She belongs to National Urban Economic Development Group. So I hope I'm answering your question. I have delved into economic development almost every job I've held in the last 30 years.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Alchemy.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Alchemy, this is Councilman Hayes once again. My last question of the evening, how do you relate to citizens and citizen groups?
Very well, sir. I think that one of the things I will do if I'm chosen is we talked about the first 90 days is to identify the stakeholders and get to know them, hear where they're coming from, and somebody like yourself will be of great help to me, given your background, the way you've approached your representation in the community. Once a teacher, always a teacher. I'm sure we'll get to learn quite a bit from you. Similarly, I will also work with other kinds of people for guidance as I work with the community. But no, sir, what I enjoy the most is the about town, understand what the community needs, and address them as quickly as possible. Some are minor, some are major. So the major ones might take a little more time. The smaller, low-hanging fruits we will knock off very quickly.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Mr. Akami, this is Doug Faircloth again with my last question.
Yes, sir.
What experience have you had in dealing with controversies or maybe morale problems within the departments, particularly a police department or a fire department?
Well, managed a small force of police department when I was in Stamford, Connecticut. There were 6 police officers under my direction. I could discipline them, but I have to work with the police chief because of the police union. I had one of the female employees that had issues, and I worked with her, worked with the union, worked with the police chief to make sure that some of the habits that the other officers did not appreciate were curtailed and managed. It required a lot of delicate handling. She was a very good staff member. I didn't want to lose her, but at the same time, I had to take steps to make sure she appreciates the challenges and that she would work with us to change some of the habits. And she did. It was a successful outing. That's an example of police dealing with the police union as well as the staff themselves.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fairclough.
Mr. Vince, Mr. Blocker again.
Yes, sir. Mr. Blocker.
What is the most important to you if you are the selected candidate in establishing an effective working relationship of employees under your supervision, and thoughts on just how you would accomplish this delicate task?
Very carefully. Is what we call sensitivity. You still want to accomplish your mission, but at the same time, be sensitive to the needs and the expressions of whoever is the detractor in what we're trying to do. I've had my share of that. I've even had a situation where I had to reorganize some departments. But it should be done in a fair way. It should not be a jerk reaction. There could be emotions and intensity that you got to be aware of. And there are tools to deal with this kind of situation. There's a need to bring in expert opinions, expert people with very little fee. I've done that to work with myself and the staff. I will go over and smooth over things. But if there's a will to do it, work together, we can always do that. I will leave it at that. I think that I'm effective in developing staff. Even way back in Polk County, I initiated bringing in women into the utility profession. There were some challenges when you bring in people that are not usually part of that particular culture. We overcame them wasn't easy. So I think that I have the tools to, if there are any issues like that in Crestview, I'll be able to deal with it very successfully.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Acme, that concludes our interview this evening. Thank you for joining us, and we will be in touch.
Wow, thank you. And you're all very, very, very nice. I've enjoyed interacting with you tonight. I hope that you hire me and something with this. Very interested in the job.
All right. Thank you.
Yes,
And
sir.
good evening.
Thank you. Bye.
These are the first.
Mr. Chairman, we go live now with the discussion?
Yeah, what we're gonna do now is, ask anybody in the audience that might like to come out and make any comments on the interviews that you've just seen. Anybody in the audience like to address the council concerning the interviews? If not, we're gonna go to a ranking process, and Madam Clerk is gonna describe that process.
What I'm planning on doing, rather than just, taking a nomination, is I'm gonna go down the row. You don't have to rank all four. If you just wanna give me your top two, your top three, however you wanna do it. And then, we're gonna look at it and see how it comes out, in those rankings as far as who you wanna bring back in again. This isn't the hiring decision, this is the bringing back in for the, second interview, or final interview, personal interview, however you wanna say it. So, is everybody ready to give me opinions? Or do you need a few?
Everybody ready? Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
I'm gonna start with Mr. Faircloth
You
then.
ever seen me without an opinion?
Come to think of it now.
All right, I'm gonna give you my top three,
Okay,
not in any particular order.
okay,
That would be Ben Newhouse, Kim Bolduc, and William Vance.
okay,
My top two,
okay.
Ben Newhouse, Tim Badoo.
Badoo, Bulldog.
Bulldog. I'm
Bulldog. Bulldog.
looking at.
Badoo.
I don't know why I'm thinking about that. I don't even know by that name.
Badoo. You're thinking Purdue chicken, you're hungry, that's what it is.
My,
Mr.
my,
Block.
my third person, they're both tied.
Okay. Mr. Blocker?
My recommendations is, number one, Ben Newhouse. Number two, William Vance. If I had to have a third one, I'd go Tim Bolduc.
Okay,
My top three is number one is Newhouse. Number two is Vance. And number three is Bulldog.
okay.
Just a moment.
It's all right, take your time.
My top three recommendations are: number one, Mr. Ben Newhouse. Two, William Vance. And three, Tim Bolduc.
The question that I'd like to float out here, we had the interviews with the understanding that we would bring in three, we had five to look at and bring in three people. We didn't look at five people, we looked at four. Do we want to bring in just two, or do we still want to bring in three? I'll throw it out there.
At this point, you're looking at, Mr. Hayes is the only one that really had two. Everybody else picked the same three. So you've got a 5-5-4 vote for the top three people on your list.
Yep.
I think that would probably be close enough to bring in the three.
You want to stay with three? Well, doesn't matter to me, I don't have a dog in the hunt.
This is a meeting, so you can make a motion to bring in three or bring in two.
Okay, that's what we decided before, we'll just keep it that way then.
Yes.
All right, okay. We're done with that process, so
We
are
just
there
need
any?
to, probably need to formally nominate those three to come in for second interviews as a motion and a.
All right, can I get and we're just gonna throw up the three names, we're not putting any 1, 2, 3, just not three names. Can I get a motion from somebody then, please?
Mr. President,
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Parker.
I make a motion that we bring in the three top named Newhouse, Bolduc, and Vance as the candidates for the final interview.
Second.
Motion second to bring in Newhouse, Bulldog, and Vance for the, for February interviews. final interviews. Any discussion? Please vote on it. Motion carries 5-0, so that's what we'll do. Madam Clerk, make sure you notify all four of them now. Thank you. All right, that concludes that. If anybody in the audience like to talk to the city council about any particular topic? Got 3 minutes. Come on down.
My job to make a decision, do you want me to air this or not? I think I should air this, because they're all three that are coming back, and be able to watch each other, which we didn't want, I guess, for this original. So I just want you to discuss that, figure out, I don't have to. That's up to y'all.
Go ahead, Mr. Councilman Cox.
I don't think that should be done at this time.
What was that question?
Nothing against,
So I want to know, will he just take what we did? Do we feel comfortable having him put that on the air so that the three coming in will get to see the whole thing or not?
no.
The only issue I will state with that is we stated in the last meeting that it would be broadcast.
True.
I can do whatever I want.
I know you can do whatever you want, but we
I wanna
stated
know-
that it
No,
would
no,
be
no,
broadcast.
he's talking
With
about
pleasure to
airing
counsel.
this that just happened.
I know, but we stated that it would be aired after the interview.
Yes,
So
and
I
it's
just want
out
to
there.
Question to council, I don't have to air.
I would.
We can't make a decision for Ken Nielsen. I mean, if he wants us to, but I mean, we couldn't tell him no if we let him film it.
But we have it on our own.
But he's asking our opinion. And you're saying no? You're saying no? All right, go
I
ahead.
think professionally, it would be best not to, because we've narrowed it down to 3 finalist candidates. And
Yeah, I think the public needs to know, but then again, there is the same thing we were talking about, originally
Yeah.
streaming it live, we just stream it live for a specific purpose.
you have the
President.
right to do that, but
Mr.
I
President.
would respect that you
Yeah,
didn't.
Mr. Blocker was actually next in line.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask our council to give his input on this comment. We stated that they could see this, the public, but now we're saying no.
No, not saying no.
We're not
He's
saying
asking
no.
our opinion.
The opinion, well, go ahead, Mr. Holly, I'd love to hear your comment.
Well, if you said you were gonna make it available for the public to see, you should do it. I don't know where he's done that, like if you,
Not
It's not
yet.
public now.
but,
I mean, the video's not public.
well,
I
I
didn't
would-
hear any of it.
I would
I'm hearing
think,
this, we're live right now, but I didn't hear the interviews, I did not stream live.
well, I think that it should be made available when you bring these 3 in, for sure.
Ms. Fairclough, you had a comment?
I would say yes, let's, make it public only after the one that wasn't chosen has been notified.
That's a good point.
So as of noon tomorrow, I'll send it.
He
out.
doesn't want to find out
No.
by
You know,
picking
you're-
up the
you're absolutely right.
newspaper or hearing it on the radio.
Would
Unless he's
would you
listening
wait
to it
until,
right now,
will you wait
which
until
he's
Ms.
already
Fairclough calls you?
done.
I'm asking for what you guys would prefer, that I can do whatever I want, but I'm asking what you prefer, and that's probably what I'm gonna do, because, Mr. Ace does not see the problem at this point for me to air it at a certain time, after we notify the.
And
If
if
you-
Mr. Kebe is
if you
watching
would-
it live, he already knows. so.
If you would coordinate with, if you coordinate with Ms. Roy when that's been noted, so then you're free to do what you want with it.
Yes.
That's what it sounds
Yeah.
like to me.
We
Yeah,
did
but-
say it would be available, and we also
Yeah.
was in the newspaper that it would be
Yeah.
available after that.
All right,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Mr. President,
Yes, go
and
ahead.
I don't have any objections against that. I think it's right, because we stated we're gonna be transparent as possible.
Yeah,
And we're gonna be transparent. I didn't see anything that we should try to not let the public know doing this. We were fair. There was a little problem with some of the sound on some of them, but other than that, the questions were fair, and they were all given the same questions.
but we're not trying to hide anything.
Now, so I said,
All right,
broadcast it.
okay, anybody else in the audience?
From the housetop.
Mr. Eddie, again, I appreciate the assistance you've given us, making that big trek over from Gulf Breeze. Thank you. Nothing more to do. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Ooh, just about 8 o'clock, that's not bad.
Good job, Mr. President. Got us out of here so we can go home,
When he was in the brush, he thought he had good questions.
get some rest. Okay.
Thing I think about is something